I never imagined being fired for loving his daughter, only to uncover his dark secrets. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced, pounding like a war drum in my chest, as I stood before him. The cold, biting air clung to my skin, but nothing compared to the icy glare in his eyes. The walls of that office felt like they were closing in heavy, suffocating. I thought I knew him. I thought I knew his world. But I was wrong. It started innocently enough. It was Sarah's laughter that drew me in at first, the way it lit up the room. We'd met at the coffee shop where I worked, her bright spirit cutting through the monotony of my days. She had a way of making everything seem possible. My best friend, Mia, loved to tease me about how taken I was, but she didn't understand. Sarah was more than a crush, she was hope. Sitting next to her, day after day, I felt the walls I built around my heart slowly crumbling. I wanted to hold her hand, take her away from everything. But her father, Mr. Kingston, was a looming shadow. A powerful man. His presence was intimidating, he commanded respect. I never stood a chance against him. The night he barged into the cafe, his fury was palpable. I could feel my blood run cold as I saw the way he marched toward us, his jaw clenched. "What do you think you're doing with my daughter?" he spat. Every eye turned toward us, the clinking of cups frozen in time. I stood there, paralyzed. I wanted to defend myself, to tell him I'd never hurt Sarah. But all I could manage was a shaky breath and trembling hands. I felt the weight of judgment, the whispers and looks of disbelief. In that moment, I realized I had crossed an invisible line. Days passed, but the chill of that confrontation lingered. I lost my job, my connection to Sarah severed. But then, whispers reached me, strange, unsettling rumors about Mr. Kingston. Whispers of dark dealings and hidden lives. Secrets that could shatter the pedestal he stood on. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something deeply wrong with him. My heart ached for Sarah, torn between my feelings for her and the fear that enveloped me. What sort of secrets was he hiding? I was scared, but I needed to know. And so, the investigation began. I dug deeper, following threads that led me to the unexpected. The deeper I went, the more afraid I became. I discovered things that could destroy lives. Would it be worth it? What if uncovering the truth meant losing Sarah forever? Suddenly, everything spun out of control. One ominous night, as I sat in my car outside the Kingston mansion, I spotted him through the window, his silhouette eerily highlighted. He was on the phone, pacing, and the words I caught sent chills down my spine. "Tomorrow, it all ends." What did that mean? My heart raced with urgency. I felt a warmth at my back, a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, unraveling this mystery could save not just me, but Sarah too. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The cold night air wrapped around me like a shroud as I sat in my car, the engine idling softly in the driveway of the Kingston mansion. I couldn't shake the disquieting feeling that gnawed at me from within. The words I overheard echoed like a haunting refrain in my mind, a constant reminder of the impending doom that Mr. Kingston hinted at. Tomorrow, it all ends. As I watched the flickering lights within the grand home, I felt a surge of determination. I had to find out what was planned for the next day. Was he speaking about a business deal gone wrong? Or something darker? My fears were eclipsed only by the thought of Sarah, caught in the crossfire of her father's dangerous world. After a long, sleepless night, dawn broke with an intense stillness. I opened my laptop, poring over what I had discovered so far. Boxes and files filled with information on Kingston Enterprises and its dubious dealings, money laundering, threats, and disappearances tied to nameless faces. Each revelation deepened my understanding of the man I once admired. The man who held Sarah's heart in a vice grip, his past woven with shadows. I knew I had to confront him. But could I do it without endangering Sarah? My thoughts swirled erratically, and then Mia's voice shattered my inward storm. I had reached out to her, desperate for guidance, and she had responded with unexpected kindness, eager to help me navigate the treacherous waters ahead. "Just be careful," she had warned, her voice wavering with concern. "You have to think about Sarah, too. If this goes wrong, it could hurt her more than anything else." That morning, I decided to attend a local community meeting that Kingston was scheduled to speak at, a chance for me to confront him while navigating the crowd for support. Maybe someone else shared the same concerns I had. I arrived early, nerves tightening my stomach as I took a seat in the back of the small auditorium. Surrounded by a sea of concerned citizens, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. There was strength in numbers. If I could reveal his true nature to those who looked up to him, maybe they could protect Sarah from whatever wickedness he wrought. As Kingston walked onto the stage, his presence was commanding, a facade of confidence cloaking his turmoil. He began to speak about the future of the community, emphasizing unity and safety, but I could see the faint cracks in his convincing armor. Each word dripped with insincerity, stirring a potent blend of anger and fear within me. Heart pounding, I stood up, my voice trembling yet determined. "Mr. Kingston. How can you talk about safety when your hands are tainted with danger? What about the lives you've ruined?" The room fell silent, gasps mingling with disbelief. His eyes locked onto mine, sharp and predatory. "And who are you to make such accusations?" he challenged, a smirk creeping up his lips. "Just a boy who couldn't keep a job because he wanted to play house with my daughter." My stomach dropped, the taunt cutting deeper than I had imagined. I saw the crowd's uncertainty shift, turning against me. Hushed whispers encircled me. But before I could respond, a voice rang out, a woman with fierce resolve. "We want to know the truth, Mr. Kingston. We deserve answers." There was a moment where every person in that room was grappling with the realization that Mr. Kingston wasn't the hero they thought he was. The embers of rebellion against tyranny had sparked anew. I met the woman's gaze, and for a brief instant, hope surged through me. Perhaps it was possible, perhaps we could take this man down if we stood united, but as Kingston's icy stare bore into me, I felt a new trepidation. It was the look of a man who was ready to retaliate, and I had just exposed myself as a threat. Later that day, heart heavy and mind racing, I returned home. I could sense that the veil of safety was thinning. What would Mr. Kingston do now? The walls of my life began to close in again, and I found myself staring at my phone, Sarah's name flashing across the screen, an invitation to dinner. Could I tell her everything? Could I risk dragging her deeper into this web of shadows, or would it be kinder to keep her in the blissful ignorance of her father's darkness? Just as I steeled myself to reply, my phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. "I know what you're trying to do. Back off before it's too late." My breath caught in my throat, and my heart raced. The stakes were higher than I realized. Beyond the battle for truth lay the fragility of love, intertwined with treachery, that I had become a pawn in a dangerous game, and no matter how much I wanted to protect her, I felt the realization dawn upon me: saving Sarah might require sacrifices I wasn't prepared to make. The shadows in my life were closing in, darker and more suffocating than I'd ever anticipated. I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity, fear and dread coiling around my heart. Back off before it's too late. Who was this? Was it Kingston himself, or someone else in his twisted circle? Questions whirled in my mind like a tempest, leaving me feeling more powerless than ever. I couldn't shake the gripping tension building within me. It was as though I were standing at the edge of a cliff, teetering on the brink of an abyss, forced to make the impossible choice between love and truth. The very essence of who I was began unraveling under the weight of every secret I uncovered. As I sat alone in my living room, my thoughts flickering back to that moment in the auditorium, the moment I dared to shove the truth into Kingston's face. What had I been thinking? My heart had surged with conviction, but now that same fire burned out of control. What protection could I afford Sarah if I remained entrenched in this war? Just as I was about to let despair wash over me, my phone buzzed again. It was Sarah. Her usual playful text, laced with inside jokes and harmless banter, felt like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. I read her words with a sinking heart, knowing the worlds of safety and danger quietly converged in my life. She wanted to see me, to fill the silence with laughter and love, pulling me away from the chilling reality I faced that I couldn't deny her that. I typed a quick response, agreeing to dinner, and before I knew it, I was standing in front of her door. The familiar warmth of her smile wrapped around me like a balm for my troubled mind. She looked radiant, her laughter bubbling like the finest champagne. In her presence, I could almost convince myself that everything was okay. We set in motion our evening ritual dinner at her favorite Italian place, and then a stroll through the nearby park, hand in hand. When we finally settled at a candlelit table, the comforting aroma of fresh basil and garlic enveloped us. Sarah chatted animatedly about her day, her eyes sparkling with excitement. It was easy to get lost in her world, to drown in the hope radiating from that incandescent smile. But the weight pressing on my chest screamed louder than her laughter, reminding me of the storm brewing just beyond the horizon. "Hey," I said, catching her eye with a seriousness that seemed to momentarily silence her chatter. "Can we talk about something important?" "Of course. Is it about the Kingston meeting?" Because I heard some interesting rumors, she trailed off, sensing the shift in my voice. "Not exactly," I replied, my heart racing. There's something you should know." The words clung to my throat, hesitant to surface. I recalled Mia's warning, "You have to think about Sarah." Before I could find the courage to continue, the restaurant door flew open, an icy draft sweeping through the cozy establishment. In strode a figure that sent chills down my spine, one of Kingston's known associates, a man with tattoos dancing up his neck and an expression that screamed intimidation. Our eyes locked for an excruciating moment, his narrowed gaze suggesting that I was in over my head, my connection with Sarah a beacon for the storm to come. That I quickly turned back to Sarah, who remained blissfully unaware of the danger looming nearby. "It's nothing, Sarah. Just a personal matter," I stuttered, my heart pounding fiercely. How could I burden her with this darkness? All I wanted was to protect her, to keep her ignorance intact. But as I attempted to drown out the widening gulf between us and, with it, the suffocating fear threatening to crush my resolve, the tattooed figure ambled over. He leaned on the edge of the table, an insidious smirk creeping onto his face. "Looking cozy here, aren't we?" He sneered, his voice tainted with malice. "How's the little romance going?" Before I could rise to confront him, Sarah bristled in her seat, instinctively moving closer to me as though seeking refuge. The tension in the air thickened, curling like smoke from the flickering candles on our table. "Excuse me, do you need something?" she asked, laced with defiance. The man laughed softly, the sound chilling. "Just a friendly reminder. Sometimes, love can blind a person to the truth. You should be careful, pretty lady." After giving me a pointed look, he straightened up and retreated, leaving a charged silence in his wake. What had I gotten myself into? The walls of protection I thought I could construct around Sarah felt thin and fragile now. The darkness was spreading, and I struggled to contain the burgeoning wave of anxiety within me. I turned to her, desperation clawing at my insides. "Sarah," I started, wanting to spill everything, to warn her. But her quizzical expression, filled with confusion, made my resolve weaken. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, concern etched on her features. "You seem tense." I forced a smile and wrapped my fingers around hers, grounding me momentarily amidst the chaos. "Everything's fine," I lied, swallowing hard. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew the truth loomed like a dark shadow waiting to engulf us both. That night, as we walked through the park, hand in hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that danger was circling closer. Every cry of a nearby dog, every rustle of bushes, felt magnified, like a haunting whisper of inevitability. I had to tell her. But as I drew closer to confessing my fears, my phone vibrated in my pocket, a message lighting up the screen. Now you know what's at stake. Stay away from my family. This is your only warning. My heart plummeted into my stomach, and I paused mid-step, the world around me fading into an eerie silence. Sarah turned to face me, her brow furrowed with concern. "What's wrong?" she asked, and at that moment, I felt the weight of 1,000 decisions crashing down on my shoulders that I had imagined this moment playing out differently. I had envisioned being able to warn her, to share the truth, but would it be too late even if I did? "I need to go," I murmured, panic rising to the surface. Because if I didn't confront this now, if I didn't protect her, would I ever forgive myself? As I turned, my heart tugging me back, I saw that the storm was no longer just a possibility. It was here, and it was taking aim right at the one thing I held dear. The concrete path beneath my feet felt unsteady as I fled the park, the distant echo of Sarah's confused voice trailing behind me. My mind raced with treacherous thoughts. What if I couldn't protect her? What if my defiance only put her in greater danger? I could almost hear Kingston's sneering laughter, echoing in the recesses of my mind, taunting me for every choice I made that I needed clarity. Somewhere tucked away in the fraying edges of my frenzied thoughts lay fragments of hope, but they seemed as far out of reach as the stars above me. As I pushed through the chilly air, desperation fueled my steps toward the small cafe where I always met Mia. She was the one person who might have answers, who understood the stakes at hand. The familiar bell tingled as I entered the cafe, greeting me with the promise of warmth. There she was, seated in our usual corner, her hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. Mia looked up as I approached, and her expression shifted from curiosity to immediate concern. "What happened?" she asked, her tone sharp with urgency. "I got a message," I said, breathless, sliding onto the chair across from her. "A warning about Sarah." "Mia, I'm terrified. I don't know how to keep her safe without revealing the truth." I pinched the bridge of my nose, a single drop of sweat trickling down my back. For a brief moment, she studied me silently, her brow furrowing as she processed my words. "You have to tell her," Mia insisted, her voice straining with a fierce conviction. "She deserves the truth. No matter how painful. Is it worth risking her safety?" I shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. What if knowing everything only put her at greater risk? Mia leaned forward, her eyes intense. "If you don't tell her, you'll both be living in a prison of secrets. Kingston is a dangerous man, and he won't stop until he gets what he wants. Hiding this from Sarah could drive a wedge between you, even if you don't intend it to." Her words cut deep, igniting the struggle within me. "I would do anything to protect her," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "And sacrificing your own honesty for her protection may just hurt her more. We can't let Kingston win." Mia's fiery determination lit a spark within me, igniting a glimmer of steely resolve. "Okay," I said, my voice firmer, "I'll tell her. We'll face this as a team. But I want to know more about Kingston. His secrets, the extent of his reach, whatever it takes." The corners of Mia's mouth peaked, but there was still a hovering sense of dread in her eyes. "We might find ourselves digging deeper than we intended," she cautioned. "Whatever it takes," I repeated, fueled by a courage that dwarfed my fear. We spent the next hour poring over every whisper, every rumor, trying to piece together the tangled web Kingston had spun. Tales leaked from shadowy corners of the city founded on extortion, hidden deals, and secrets buried beneath layers of deceit. Each story was more grotesque than the last, weaving a portrait of a man wrapped in darkness, a man with fangs set on devouring everything I held dear. As we prepared to leave the cafe, my phone buzzed once more, this time with unfamiliar energy. The screen flickered to life, and my heart accelerated when I saw a new message from Sarah. "Where are you? I'm worried. Can we talk? A tumult of emotions surged through me: guilt, fear, love. I didn't respond instantly, my hesitation gnawing at me as I weighed the consequences of my next words. Would sharing the truth make everything worse, or would it finally shatter the silence that grew heavier with each passing moment? As I wrestled with my thoughts, a sudden shove jostled me out of my reverie. I stumbled back, barely avoiding a collision with a stranger. My heart sank as I recognized the tattoos that traced up his arm and the calculating stare boring into me. Looking for answers, huh? He smirked, the same sinister tone echoing in his voice from the restaurant. You should really think twice about who you're getting involved with. It's dangerous to poke your nose where it doesn't belong. My fight-or-flight instincts kicked in, but he grabbed my shoulder, his grip like iron. But if you're looking for more than just answers, he leaned closer, his breath stinking of smoke. Let's just say I could help you find Kingston if you're willing to pay the price. Something grotesque and unsettling flashed in his eyes, the hint of a proposition threaded with malice. I blinked in shock, the scent of his threat palpable in the air. Stay away from Sarah, he hissed, his voice dropping dangerously low, or I will make sure you regret it. He released me, stepping back like a shadow evaporating into the night. I could still feel the coldness of his touch lingering as I staggered backward, stunned. The tension in my chest constricted, fear gripping me with icy fingers that I rushed into the street, clutching my phone like a lifeline. I could no longer ignore Sarah's text. Let us meet. I'll tell you everything. As I typed, the gravity of my commitment weighed heavy, each word laced with the potential for upheaval. I pressed send and took a deep breath, knowing that whatever lay ahead would either fortify our bond or tear it apart. But when my phone vibrated again with an unknown caller, dread washed over me anew. I answered hesitantly, the air thick with uncertainty. Hello. A smooth voice that sent shivers down my spine came over the line. We need to talk about Sarah. This isn't over yet. You've crossed a line. Just like that, my resolve shattered, and the weight of impending doom settled in my gut. The storm was raging now, and I was no longer sure if I could steer us clear of the inevitable chaos that seemed destined to swallow us whole. The night swallowed me whole as I stumbled away from the cafe, shaking under the weight of the conversation I'd just had and the sinister warning still echoing in my ears. Was Kingston really lurking in the shadows, watching my every move? Doubt gnawed at my insides, a relentless specter chasing me into the dark. My breath quickened, and the chill of the wind seemed to hurl icy tendrils through my jacket, freezing me from the inside out. I found myself at a crossroads in front of the familiar neighborhood park, a place that had once felt safe. But now, under the watchful moon, it transformed into a labyrinth of fears. Glancing at my phone with shaky hands, I read Sarah's message again. Let us meet. I'll tell you everything. Why had I felt compelled to respond immediately? I was unprepared for the storm I'd unleashed by agreeing to share the truth. I leaned against the cold metal of a park bench, my mind racing. Just a few hours ago, the idea of protecting Sarah had unfurled a plan inside me, a winding path toward clarity and safety. Now, all I could think of was how perilous that path had become. I drew in a deep breath, willing myself to find some modicum of peace within the chaos. Suddenly the park's silence shattered as I heard someone approaching, footsteps punctuating the still night air. I looked up, tensed, my heart pounding, but the figure stepping out of the shadows brought an unexpected jolt of warmth. Mia. I exhaled, relief washing over me. There was something beautifully unwavering about her presence, a beacon in my darkest moment. What are you doing here? I couldn't let you face this alone, she replied softly, her eyes scanning the shadows as if Kingston himself might materialize from the dark. I'm worried about you and about Sarah. You can't bear this weight by yourself. It's too dangerous, Mia, I whispered, urgency tinging my tone. I'm dragging you into this mess. Better together than apart, she insisted, stepping closer. If Kingston knows you're coming for him, we need to be ready. You have people willing to help. How long had I been locked in this battle alone, too afraid to extend my hand for help? The weight of our shared purpose steadied me, but the knot of fear surrounding Sarah constricted even tighter. I need to meet her, I said, my voice breaking slightly. Tell her everything. She deserves to understand. Mia nodded, her expression steady yet vulnerable. Let us go, but we need a plan. If Kingston's people are watching, we need to be cautious. As we walked together, a flicker of warmth ignited inside me. Small gestures besides the shadows, such as the way Mia reached for my hand as we crossed the street, proved that even amid fear and uncertainty, solidarity sparked hope. The quiet comfort of camaraderie felt like a fragile shield against the gathering storm. Once we arrived at Sarah's apartment, the weight of anticipation was almost unbearable. My heart drummed at the thought of finally unveiling everything, the truth and the sinister threads tying us all together. We entered the building cautiously, mindful of the unsettling eyes lurking in the periphery. As we stepped into the dimly lit hallway, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The air was heavy, almost suffocating, and I felt the hairs on the back of my neck rise. I knocked on Sarah's door, rapping softly, my heart racing alongside the muted tick of time. Sarah? I called, hoping against hope for a response. The familiar ache of vulnerability twisted in my chest, a reminder of the fragile barrier between love and danger. The door creaked open slightly, just enough for a tiny sliver of light to escape. She appeared in the doorway, her expression a mix of worry and confusion. I was starting to think you wouldn't come, Sarah said, her voice hushed as if the walls were listening. Can we come in? I asked, glancing warily down the hall. Surrounded by an uneasy sensation, I had to be cautious, paranoid even. After a hesitant moment, she swung the door open wider. What is going on? You look. I'm okay, I interrupted quickly, forcing a smile. That felt brittle on my lips. But there is something important we need to talk about. Something that could change everything. As we moved inside, I glanced at Mia, who gave me an encouraging nod. The weight of my words pressed down on me like gravity. I could feel the lurking danger outside, yet the refuge of being with Sarah was intoxicating. Sarah, I began, my voice trembling. There are things you don't know about your father, about me, about why but before I could finish, the shrill sound of my phone vibrating against the countertop cut through the moment like a knife. I turned, panic swelling in my chest as I recognized an unknown number. The moment seemed stretched in time, and an unsettling tension filled the room. Don't answer it, Mia warned under her breath, but I was already reaching for the phone, compelled by a sense of urgency I couldn't shake. Hello. I breathed into the receiver, and in that heartbeat, I knew I would regret my decision. Did you think you could keep secrets from me, boy? That same smooth, sinister voice dripped with malice. You've played your cards, and now it's time to pay for those choices. Make sure Sarah's safe, we'll be watching. My heart sank as the line went dead, leaving the air thick with terrifying implications. I looked at Sarah, who had turned pale, her eyes wide with uncertainty. What is going on? She demanded, her voice rising with the kind of fear that lit a fire under my skin. And as the weight of my secrets loomed heavily upon us, catching in the tremor of my words, I realized I'd unleashed a storm far more brutal than the one I had hoped to contain. Every assignment I'd ever taken, every secret I thought I could protect, was about to collapse around me. The atmosphere in the room shifted, drowning out the sound of the clock ticking relentlessly in the background. I could almost feel the darkness seeping through the walls, pressing down on us. Sarah's eyes burned into mine, the questions swirling within them demanding answers I was not ready to provide. Mia, you need to, I started, but my voice faltered. I had no idea how to approach the tangled web of deception we were caught in, and the weight of my decisions was starting to suffocate me. What did he say? Who was that? Sarah pressed, her voice trembling yet resolute. Sarah, there are things about your father, things that I've been trying to shield you from, I said, hesitation lacing my words. But that was Kingston. He knows we're here. We need to be careful. Careful? She echoed, voice sharp. What could possibly be more careful than telling me the truth? What danger are you trying to protect me from? Who is Kingston? And why does he know about me? Before I could respond, the door thudded against the wall with a force that made us all jump. My heart raced. I quickly turned to Mia, who stepped forward, shielding Sarah protectively. "Stay behind me," Mia whispered, her tone a mixture of fear and determination. The fluorescent lights buzzed ominously as Kingston's voice, with its smooth menace, filtered in through the semi-open doorway. "You all think you have the advantage, don't you? But you're just pawns in a game larger than you can comprehend." I moved instinctively to shield Sarah more completely, desperation crashing over me. "You need to go, now," I urged, my pulse pounding in my ears. "No," Sarah protested, her voice rising defiantly. "I'm not leaving. Not without answers." "Mia, grab her," I barked, knowing we had little time. In the ensuing struggle, Kingston stalked into the room, a shadow among shadows, his presence suffocating. "You think you can hide the truth from me?" he taunted, his gaze piercing. "But you've already shown your hand by coming here." My chest tightened as he stepped closer, a predatory gleam in his eyes. I could see the intensity of Sarah's fear reflected in Mia's defensive stance. "Why are you doing this?" I managed to ask, forcing myself to meet his gaze. "Why?" "Because you've meddled where you don't belong," he replied, an unsettling smile curling his lips. "And now, dear Mia, you must decide, will you fight beside him or remain the unsuspecting daughter that you think you are?" "Let her go," I shouted, my heart wrenching at the thought of Sarah being dragged into a fight she didn't ask for. "Ah, the protective lover," Kingston remarked, almost gleefully. "But love blinds, doesn't it? You think you're strong enough to take on my world? You have no idea the darkness you're up against." In that moment, something in me snapped. Adrenaline surged as I stepped forward, fueled by a fierce combination of fear and anger. "You don't scare me," I declared, though my voice faltered under the weight of my lie. He took a step closer to me, his breath a rancid whisper. "Let us see just how far that bravery takes you." As his presence loomed, my mind raced for solutions, plans collapsing under the terror of his intentions. I glanced at Mia and Sarah, sensing the tremor of fear creeping into their resolve. Then, a flicker of hope caught my attention. Sarah, in her defiance, met my gaze, determination lighting her features. She would not back down. She would not be a pawn. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed outside the apartment. It jolted us all, and Kingston turned his attention to the sound, his demeanor shifting from sinister to alert. "What was that?" he hissed. "We need to get out," I urged, my heart racing. But before I could usher them toward an escape, Kingston paused, a dark glint in his eye. "You think this little distraction will save you?" He motioned to the door, his smile widening into something terrifying. "I have nothing to lose now. A family member stands in my way." Courage twisted within me, and on instinct, I took hold of Sarah's hand tight, ready to flee as soon as the moment presented itself. "Come on!" I shouted. Just then, a figure burst through the door, someone I hadn't expected, yet instantly recognized. "Get down!" they yelled, a flash of panic in their voice that sent chills down my spine. It was Andrew, Sarah's brother, a troubled past swirling in silence behind him, but then came the bombshell, spinning everything into chaos. "I'm here to tell you the truth about Dad, Sarah." "Kingston isn't who you think he is," Andrew gasped, his wide eyes wild with urgency and a hint of betrayal. The not-so-gentle unraveling of secrets cast a shadow over the already fractured reality we inhabited. The room felt like it could explode, the air electric with tension, and I could barely comprehend the implications of his words. "Andrew?" Sarah's voice trembled with disbelief. "What do you mean?" I turned toward Kingston, recognizing that the stakes had just climbed higher. We hadn't just stepped into danger, we now stood at the crux of a storm that had been brewing for far longer than we had imagined. Would it swallow us whole? As Andrew's revelation hung in the air, a new fear gripped me. The fight for Sarah was only beginning, and the darkness had only just begun to unfold. The game was on. The weight of Andrew's words settled heavily in the air, a suffocating fog that obscured our thoughts. What do you mean? Sarah repeated, her voice trembling as confusion swapped with a growing sense of betrayal. Kingston's expression darkened. He glanced at Andrew with disdain, as if the very presence of her brother was a nuisance that threatened to derail his carefully woven plans. You should have stayed hidden, Andrew, he murmured, his voice dripping with malice. Enough. I interjected, drawing my gaze back to Kingston. What are you hiding? You should be asking your brother why he is here, Mia, Kingston spat, his amusement a shadow of the storm brewing in the room. He is the one tangled in the web of betrayal. Andrew stepped forward, defiant yet trembling, his chest heaving with the weight of his urgency. I came to warn you, Sarah. Kingston is not what he appears to be. Stop it. Sarah shouted, her voice breaking, the turmoil within her spilling over. You can't just waltz in here after acting like you're above it all and expect me to believe you. Dad is just complicated. No. Andrew insisted, desperation lacing his voice. Dad is not the man you think he is. He is involved in something terrible and you need to understand the truth before it's too late. The tension in the room morphed into a simmering cauldron of emotions, anger, fear, lost trust, all swirling, threatening to boil over. I moved protectively closer to Sarah as she faltered, caught between the brother who had always been her defender and the father who had always loomed large over her life. Kingston can manipulate just about anyone, Andrew continued, his voice trembling with conviction. I didn't know until it was too late, but he has been using us both, and now he is coming for you, Sarah. Kingston's eyes flickered with fury. You dare speak against me, boy. You've always been a disappointment, you'll never understand this world. This world? Andrew spat back. You call this chaos a world? You've turned our lives into a living nightmare, and I want to let you take Sarah down with you. Enough. Kingston roared, his rage palpable as he lunged toward Andrew, but I was quicker, elbowing Kingston in the stomach and pushing Sarah and Mia aside. Run! I yelled, urgency punctuating my desperation. As the tension snapped like a taut wire, the four of us scrambled for the door, adrenaline surging as Kingston reeled back. The world outside was chaotic, buzzing with potential, there was freedom waiting if only we could reach it, yet just as we burst into the corridor, the sound of sirens echoed ominously in the distance. It sent a chill racing down my spine. We have to hurry. I gasped, dragging Sarah by the hand, but she hesitated, her face pale and stricken with fear. Where do we go? She asked, glancing back towards the door from which Kingston had emerged, his presence still suffocating the air around us. The concept of running away felt distant, unmoored from reality. I could sense Andrew's tension rising beside us, his eyes darted anxiously. We can't go home, not now. Kingston will find us there. We need allies. Do you even know where to go? I struggled to keep the panic at bay, but my pulse raced with the harsh reality of our situation. I know someone, a friend who can help, Andrew replied, urgency replacing his earlier bravado. But they won't help unless we get there first. With Kingston's pursuit still a looming shadow, we dashed down the hall, the sirens echoing louder behind us. Just when we reached the stairwell, a shocking realization struck. We can't trust Kingston, but can we trust Andrew? Doubt clouded my mind, gnawing at the fragile strands of hope that held us together. Keep moving. Andrew urged, and I obeyed, forcing myself to trust. We plunged down the flight of stairs, heartbeats drumming like a war march in my ears. But as we reached the ground floor, the door was surprisingly ajar, swinging on its hinges, an invitation or a trap unclear in the dim lighting. Out! I shouted, and as we spilled onto the street, a figure emerged from the shadows, another silhouette I recognized yet never expected to see. It was Marcus, the enigmatic character from our past, whose connection ran deeper than most knew. Marcus? I breathed. The shock of his appearance invited a mix of hope and fear. Why are you here? Running from Kingston, I assume. He stepped forward, eyes narrowing as he registered the tension. You're in deeper than you know. He's looking for you. Don't you think we know that? I snapped, frustration boiling over. Then you need to listen to me. His voice held an authority that clashed with the swirl of emotions inside me. It's already too late for some truths to remain buried. You're all targeted now. Swallowing hard, I felt the reality of our plight wash over me again, drowning out our fleeting sense of escape. Kingston would stop at nothing to ensure we were silenced. Just as I felt the fragile flicker of hope, Kingston's laughter echoed from the building we had escaped. You really think you can run away from the inevitable? He taunted. Let the games begin. My heart dropped as the finality of those words settled in an impending storm gathering, shadows folding in on our fragile bond. The clock was ticking, and we were dangerously running out of time. Move! Marcus commanded as sirens closed in. We don't have much time. And just as we started off together, the air thick with unease, a gut-wrenching scream pierced through the night, a sound of despair that echoed from a place so painfully familiar. It was Sarah's voice breaking through the chaos. I whipped around just in time to see her stumble, clutched tightly by Kingston, who had somehow appeared behind us, his smirk filled with dark promise. I told you, dear daughter, you should have stayed hidden. The Tavern of Hope crashed down into despair as Kingston's grip tightened, and the terror of losing Sarah solidified into something raw and horrifying. The battle had only begun. The world around me faded into sharp clarity, the moment stretched taut with dread as Kingston's words echoed in my mind. I reached out instinctively, my heart racing, but the distance between us felt insurmountable. Sarah was ensnared in her father's twisted grasp, and helplessness clawed at my insides. Let her go. I shouted, desperation staining my voice. Kingston merely chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth. You've underestimated the lengths I'll go to protect my family, he replied, his eyes glinting with malice. He turned slightly, shielding Sarah's form as if she were a prized possession under his watch. Your little rebellion is amusing, but futile. Andrew's face was a mixture of rage and fear as he darted towards Kingston, fists clenched, but I gripped his arm tightly. No. We can't fight him. Not like this. We had fled into the night, but Kingston's shadow loomed larger than the tangible darkness around us. We need to get Sarah away from him, I hissed, thinking frantically. We have to outsmart him. Just then, Marcus stepped forward, as if sensing a way through the chaos. Stay calm. Kingston thrives on your fear. We need a plan to divert his attention, he said, his voice steady despite the urgent situation. If we can create a distraction. I snapped my head towards him, the flicker of hope igniting. A distraction? Like what? We need to get Kingston where it hurts, Marcus continued, his gaze darting between us, formulating ideas. A place that undermines his control. His office, Andrew breathed, realization lighting his eyes. It's his sanctuary. If we can lure him there, we might stand a chance to rescue Sarah. Do you really think we can pull that off? I asked, incredulous. The gravity of what we were about to attempt was enormous, but the anguish in Sarah's eyes, the way she had tried to be our anchor, propelled me forward. Marcus nodded, the determination in his stance contagious. We don't have to defeat him directly, we just need a few moments to create an opening. I can spread word of his misdeeds, the whispers of his dark connections could rally others who despise him within his own circle. Andrew looked uncertain, glancing back at Kingston, who remained a looming figure like a storm cloud overhead. What about Sarah? We can't leave her with him. Follow my lead, Marcus said. As soon as we make our move, he'll be focused on that, and we grab her while he's distracted. But we must act fast, he's more dangerous when cornered. Okay, I said, steeling myself. Let us do this. We hurriedly sketched a plan, moving under the cover of shadows, adrenaline fueling us. The road ahead filled with uncertainty, but the weight of our love for Sarah breathed strength into our resolve. As we parted ways, I launched myself into the night. Fear pulsed through me as I stole glances back at Kingston, whose gaze never wavered from his captive daughter. The world spun wildly as we dashed towards his office, our hearts thrumming with the rhythm of hope and panic intertwined. Just as we reached Kingston's office, a chill swept through me. What if this doesn't work? Andrew caught my eye, his expression resolute. It has to. For Sarah. The darkened doorway loomed before us, a threshold to untold secrets and raw confrontation. I turned to Andrew, exchanging a brief, comforting nod before we stepped into the lioness den. Inside, darkness festered in the corners, illuminated by the soft glow of city lights creeping through sheer curtains. The smell of leather and cigars permeated the air. Papers were strewn chaotically across an imposing desk, their contents still a mystery, but the absence of order spoke of disarray. Andrew rummaged through the papers, while I scanned the room, searching for an angle, any evidence we could use. As I rifled through them, my fingers landed on a file marked confidential. The weight of the papers felt heavier than likely due to dread and hesitation. I opened it with a cautious breath. "What do you see?" Andrew whispered, his eyes darting back toward the hallway. "Names," I murmured, studiously flipping through the pages, a list of aliases and transactions that bore a haunting familiarity. They're connected to underground operations, but there's more. There are indicators of a sudden echo of footsteps froze our movement. I could feel the cold grip of fear wrap around my throat. My heart raced. He's coming. We need to go. Grab as much as you can, Andrew urged, urgency propelling him as he hurriedly collected loose papers, his hands shaking with resolve. Just then, Kingston's voice boomed from the hallway, ice slicing through me. "I see you're indulging in my private stash, children. How adorable." My blood ran cold. "He knows," I uttered, panic flooding my veins. "Out the back," Andrew exclaimed, gesturing urgently. "Now." We rushed toward the rear exit just as Kingston's laughter echoed behind us, chasing us like a predator. "You think you can leave so easily? The night is young." We burst through the door, but the full weight of Kingston's influence pressed upon us. Sarah was still a heartbeat away, a golden thread locking the pieces together. Suddenly, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, a stark interruption. I hesitated, a morbid curiosity gnawing at me. As Andrew followed hurriedly, I pulled the device free and saw it an unknown number with a message: "If you care about Sarah, meet me at the old warehouse." Alone. Chills enveloped me. How did they know? Was it a trap? "Who is it?" Andrew asked, breathless, his eyes scanning mine, sensing every unspoken word. "Someone who knows something," I replied, my stomach knots tightening. "But I can't ignore it. They're telling me to come alone. That's dangerous," he countered, panic splashing vividly across his features. "We can't risk you going into a trap." "Maybe it's our chance to confront Kingston while he's distracted," I pressed, desperation radiating through me. "If I can get information." And in that charged moment, residual hope flickered and crackled like embers in an unyielding night. But Andrew's expression was one of horror as he peered into the darkness gathering ahead. It was a confrontation waiting to happen, one that could mean life or death for Sarah. "Please, just swear to stay safe," he begged, squeezing my arm. "I can't lose you too." "I will," I promised, squeezing back, yet the uncertainty threatened to swallow me whole. The shadows danced enticingly, drawing me toward the unknown, and just as I prepared to step forward, Kingston emerged, an unholy grin plastered on his face. "Going somewhere, Mia?" he taunted, the abyss opening before us, beckoning with the dark promise of unanswered questions, and the fear of all we held dear. With no turning back now, I faced both the loom of Kingston and the mystery of the message flickering in my hand, caught between love and betrayal, ready to dive into the depths of a resolution we had only begun to unravel. The warehouse loomed in the distance, a foreboding silhouette against the night sky. My heart thudded painfully in my chest as Kingston's words twisted in my mind. I was teetering on the brink of something monumental, the weight of what was at stake pressing heavily upon me. "Do you know what you're doing?" Andrew questioned, his voice strained with concern. "I have to find out if there's a chance to save Sarah," I replied, my voice firm yet uncertain. "We don't have any other leads." "Then let me come with you," he insisted, his expression pleading as he searched my eyes for any hint of assurance. "No, I can't risk both of us. If this is a trap, at least one of us needs to stay safe." He looked down, the conflict evident on his face, before nodding reluctantly. "Promise me you'll walk away if it feels off." "I promise," I said, though a knot of dread festered in my guts. With one last shared look, I turned and stepped deeper into the shadows, leaving Andrew behind, where he remained a silent sentinel of worry. The cold air wrapped around me as I approached the warehouse. Each step echoed against the concrete floor, reverberating with anxiety. Time felt distorted, I could neither hasten nor delay my entry. I pushed through the creaking door, revealing a vast expanse tight filled with memories, conversations lost, laughter hardened by time. But now it was a barren ghostland, punctuated only by rays of moonlight slicing through the gaps. "Hello." My voice trembled amidst the silence. I felt utterly exposed. The air thickened, tension radiating from every corner. Suddenly, I heard a rustling, a movement just beyond my line of sight. I turned instinctively, heart racing. Then, a figure emerged, silhouetted by the faint light. "Mia." The voice was low, a mix of gravel and honey. I struggled to identify the speaker, but even before the figure stepped fully into the light, recognition gripped me the way my heart could detect a familiar melody without ever hearing it sung. "Evelyn." I uttered in disbelief, her presence almost surreal. She had always operated in the shadows, Kingston's sister and an important piece of the puzzle I knew nothing about. "What are you doing here?" she asked, stepping closer, an urgent intensity radiating from her. "You shouldn't have come alone." "I received a message, they said it was about Sarah," I blurted, uncertainty crashing down like waves. "What do you know?" Evelyn hesitated, a turbulent ocean of emotions flickering behind her eyes. "I know Kingston isn't what he seems, nor is his family business. Your love for Sarah, it's a curse and a blessing. He's blinded by anger and fear." Her words confounded me. "You think I should stop caring about her?" "No," she exclaimed, her passion igniting the space between us. "I'm saying your love is the very thing he hates. He fears that you could break the cycle of control, and that's why you're in danger. You didn't know the lengths he would go to protect his empire." I felt the ground beneath me shake. Kingston was not just a man, he was the embodiment of a web of darkness woven with chilling intent. But he's her father, Evelyn. How can someone do this to their own child? Trust me, he turned long ago. At first, it was out of love, but he twisted that into something malignant. You need to confront him, but wisely. A single misstep could cost you suddenly. A loud bang reverberated through the warehouse, sending a rush of adrenaline surging. Our eyes widened, sharing the recognition that Kingston had arrived. "He's here. We need to hide," Evelyn urged, panic etched across her face as she pulled me behind a stack of old crates. As we wedged ourselves into the recesses of the warehouse, the sound of heavy boots echoed closer, each step pounding against my heart. I could hear Kingston's voice echoing in the vast space, tinged with irritation. "Where are you, Mia?" he called out, that dark taunting lacing his tone. "Stay silent," Evelyn whispered urgently. We pressed together, cloaked in shadows, the tension spilling over like molten lava. Horror clutched at my insides, but within me thrummed a sense of resolve. Sarah needed me, I wouldn't back down now. Just as I began to steady my breath, Kingston's south figure loomed dangerously close. My heart raced, thrumming with fear and potency as it became painfully clear. Now wasn't he just a matter of my love for Sarah, it was an exploration into familial peril and unveiling the monster in all its glory. In a cruel twist, Kingston's voice shifted in tone, suddenly soft, drawing me in. You think you can escape this family? That you can save my little girl from me? You don't know how possessive I can be. The words pierced through the dimness raw and heavy. There was a chilling connection in his possession, love warped into something grotesque. Then from beyond the shadows came a muffled voice, a sound that carved its way through the chaos of fear in my heart. Mia! Help! It was Sarah, her voice a fragile plea that wrapped around me, pulling me forth like a lifeline. I glanced at Evelyn, standing poised like a coiled spring, and time seemed to freeze. Are you with me? She nodded, and in that moment, we both understood our paths intertwining at this critical juncture. I heard Kingston miscalculating my emotions, edging closer to the heart of our pain. Now, I said, my voice firm as adrenaline coursed through my veins. We charge in. But just as we prepared to step out, Sarah's cry was cut short by a crash, sending a shockwave through me. My breath hitched. Had Kingston harmed her? Let us go, Evelyn urged, her eyes fierce as she bolted forward, yet I hesitated, glancing back at the haunting figure of Kingston, sensing the dark cloud he carried, an emblem of our deepest fears. And as we pushed forward, heart pounding louder than any fears, I faced the flickering lights of uncertainty, a storm of feelings devolving into the unbearable truth. This confrontation was about far more than just Sarah. It was about dismantling a grotesque legacy, our hopes woven into the impending battle against darkness, teetering on a precipice of revelation and dread. The air in the warehouse hung thick with such tension that even the shadows seemed to hold their breath. As I felt the adrenaline pulse through my veins, I was acutely aware that this was the moment of reckoning, not just for my love for Sarah, but for the very essence of who she was. The knowledge of her father's twisted nature loomed over us like a storm cloud, and I could almost taste the metal tang of fear in the back of my throat. As Evelyn and I stepped out into the dim light, my heart raced. Each footfall reverberated with anticipation and dread, torn between the instinct to protect Sarah and the urgency of confronting Kingston head-on. I needed to obliterate the darkness he had woven around her, to break the cycle of fear that had plagued their family for far too long. As I advanced, Kingston's silhouette emerged, dark and formidable. His smirk was a haunting echo of triumph, as though he reveled in the game he had orchestrated. Mia, he called, his voice smooth and mocking. I see you found some allies. How very predictable. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to retreat into the shadows, but the urgency surged within me like a flame igniting a raging fire. Let Sarah go, I demanded, my voice unwavering despite the tremor coursing through my body. He chuckled, a low and sinister sound that reverberated off the walls like thunder. Why would I do that? She's my most precious asset. Each word dripped with possessiveness, a twisted love twisted into violent control. Suddenly, a window shattered somewhere in the distance, resonance sweeping through the quiet like an unveiling truth. Kingston's eyes narrowed, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in the predator's gaze. What was that? He growled, taking a deliberate step forward. Distract him. I hissed at Evelyn, who immediately launched herself toward a pile of crates opposite us. The clatter echoed against the walls, drawing Kingston's gaze away for just enough time. It was all I needed. With lungs burning and heart pounding, I sprinted toward the makeshift room where Sarah's cries had reverberated from moments before. The sound pulled me like gravity, each echo igniting a determination fiercer than any fear gripping my chest. Sarah! I shouted, my voice sharp and raw, resonating off the walls as I pushed through a gap in the debris. As I entered, the sight of her bound and terrified nearly broke me. Kingston's legacy of darkness was not just an abstract fear, it manifested in the shackles that bound her, a real-world horror I was determined to dissolve. Move! I yelled, kneeling beside her and frantically working to undo the bindings that had silenced her spirit. We're getting out of here. My fingers trembled against the rough ropes, the strain of urgency amplifying my adrenaline-laden resolve. Sarah looked up, her eyes wide, filled with a mix of fear and hope. "You came for me," she whispered in disbelief, as if she couldn't fathom the reality of our connection amid chaos. "Always," I replied, a fierce determination locking into place. Finally, as the rope gave way, her wrists slipped free. But no sooner had I unfettered her than Kingston emerged behind me. "You thought you could rescue her? Back off!" I shouted, positioning myself protectively between him and Sarah, blood pumping in my ears. "You don't have to do this, Kingston." "Oh, my dear," he cooed, voice dripping with twisted affection. "I have everything to lose. Think of all the lives I have built. Yours, too, tonight, their very foundation crumbles. I've let you dance around foolishly for too long." The room seemed to darken around me, the weight of imminent danger grasping at my throat. But even as fear threatened to paralyze me, I felt a burgeoning warmth rise in the pit of my stomach. There was a power in loved one that overlaid fear like a steadying light amidst a storm. In that moment, I realized Kingston wasn't a force of nature, he was a man fueled by darkness of his own making, a man who had steeped himself in lies. "No," I said firmly, defiance hardening my voice. "Your empire is crumbling, and so is your grip over Sarah. We're not falling into your web." Just as Kingston stepped forward, ready to retaliate, a sudden crash erupted behind him, a distraction ignited by Evelyn's tactical maneuvering. Papers went flying, a hidden corridor revealed itself, as chaos enveloped the world we had known. "Now!" I shouted, grabbing Sarah's hand and bolting through the opening. Desperation propelled us forward, the cacophony of Kingston's rage behind us tinged with disbelief. We raced through the shadows of the warehouse, the echoing clatter ringing like an alarm in my ears as we sprinted toward freedom. Just as we reached the door, Kingston's fist slammed against the wall, shattering the stillness around us. "You want to get away? Let us go." Evelyn swerved ahead, her voice steadying our fear. Outside, night air enveloped us like a protective shroud, each breath heavy yet liberating. We stumbled into an alley, breathless, the hard pavement grounding our surreal experience. "Our families are intertwined in ways that defy understanding," Sarah murmured, her eyes glimmering with unshed tears and fierce determination. "But our choices define us, and I refuse to be bound by his darkness." With the barrier that Kingston upheld finally breached, honesty began weaving through the collective. "Your father is a monster, Sarah," I replied, my heart breaking at the thought. "But we're not his prisoners. Together, we can break every chain," Evelyn offered, confidence wrapping around us like a shield. As the weight of Kingston's presence began to lift, something even deeper settled in my heart, the understanding that this battle was far from over. "We're going to expose him," I said, adrenaline surging into determination. "No more secrets. No more fear." And as the day broke at the horizon, painting the world anew, I held Sarah's hand as firm as my resolve, knowing deep down that darkness would never fully be extinguished, but the power of light could multiply in ways beyond comprehension. I sought to bridge the gap between our families, between love and fear, reclaiming our destinies strung amidst shadows of pain. Together. And as we moved forward, I knew I didn't just owe it to Sarah, I owed it to every lost chance, every whispered fear. One last glance back confirmed my belief, Kingston's rain would fall. We shared a moment within the stillness of dawn, a moment where hope and determination swirled around us, incandescent and fierce. Because in that hour, in that fragile moment, we had chosen love over fear, light over darkness. And that alone was a victory worth fighting for. As we took the next step, I realized that even in the grip of despair, love had guided us here. That was the truth, our truth, and it flowed unerringly from our hearts as we pressed forward into the unknown. In the end, we were bound not by blood or terror, but by an unbreakable alliance, the bonds we chose to forge in the face of our darkest hour. So hand in hand, we stepped into the light of a new dawn, leaving behind a legacy entwined not in fear but in the fierce resilience of love. And it was in that moment that I whispered the truth I had lost but regained, a promise to Sarah, to myself, that we would make it through together. Whatever happens now, we will face it as one. And at that moment, beneath the fragile embrace of dawn, I knew our love would lead us through whatever battle lay ahead.